You mean in the Northeast and the blue states?
No. Even places that have you're not beyond high income tax states.
Because
we have a $10,000
itemize?
cap on deductibility. So obviously, most people in the blue states are already impacted by that already. But it's now the state, in other states, when you have, if you live in a city like a Miami or a Dallas, probably the average house there is $600,000-$700,000. I don't know what to the degree. And most Americans still have floating rate mortgages, 50-odd%. Right. So now we've witnessed about a 100 basis point increase in interest rates. So, that's going to add $1,000 of interest costs. More people are going to be hitting this cap. Right. And that's going to impact the desirability of housing. So I think we have actually a little more bigger issues to focus on related to how the economy can perform in a rising
that
rate
might explain
environment.
the weakness in housing is not just supply. Maybe it's what you're talking about.
I think it is now housing affordability is, or the lack of affordability is kicked in faster than any other time because of this new phenomenon.
And you think therefore it's going to affect the market?
I mean, there are places where you're not allowed to deduct.
No, but we're not. It will take time to adjust to that. Right. But let me just get back to my earnings for one thing. The one thing that we haven't focused on is we raised another. We're going at a record rate of raising assets in alternatives. We've raised now $16 billion over the last 12 months in illiquids. So we're raising record amounts for us, money in alternatives. We still see very large interest from our clients. We're in the midst of some big asset raises going on in the fourth quarter and the first quarter of next year. So,
what are alternatives? Describe that.
It could be from real estate to infrastructure, where we're seeing very large demand, especially in renewables and ESG-related infrastructure investments. And so, and it's obviously hedge funds, it's fund of funds, it's private equities.
Let me ask you, on the alternatives subject, you folks started investing in a number of private startups, sort of the technology startups. I'm thinking of the Ubers of the world and others. Has that, you think, ultimately been a successful
Overall, it
effort?
has been, but it's not a major effort for us. We have a couple big funds that have the ability to have a small portion of their funds in illiquid privates, and so that's where we're investing. It's not a large component of what we do, but we have done, let's say, 5 to 10 different very public ones.
Since you spend your time on an airplane, we have a handful of geopolitical questions, all of which, by the way, are going to affect the market, including oil and China. But we do, given the headlines, and we've been talking about this morning, on Saudi Arabia, you were one of the executives yesterday with Jamie Dimon and Larry Fink. You are Larry Fink. With Stephen Schwartzman, who decided to pull out of this conference. Can you tell us about that decision? Because you've had business with Saudi for a very long time.
Well, I have been going to Saudi for years and years and years, as much as 3 to 4 times a year. But, we have an incident right now that we have to be mindful of. There's an unexplainable death or murder. It could impact relationships worldwide. We have to be sympathetic to this. This was a big issue with BlackRock's employees. This was a big issue with many of our clients who reached out and called. So we received a lot of incoming about participation. And these are the issues around being a big public company, that you have so many constituents. I write about this in my corporate letter. We needed to be thoughtful and mindful of how to navigate this. And so as a friend of the countries, I wanted to do this in a way that I was trying to preserve the relationship with that we've worked so long for, and yet we needed to be mindful of this investigation. What I wanted to do was to find a way that we could possibly have this conference delayed until the investigation is completed. We have better information, and we could do this in a non-emotional way. I did not achieve that objective, and so I had to make a decision related to, my relationship with the kingdom and my relationship with all my constituents. And it was very clear I had only one choice, and that was to withdraw the conference. It does not mean we are going to run away from the kingdom. We do business in 80 different countries. There are many countries where we may disagree with policies, but this one event became such a lightning rod because it's so public in nature. There are many things that you can do and try to build a commonality, build a bridge in which you can try to build. And, you know, I have been a lifelong globalist. I'm still proud of being a globalist in this day and age, and we're going to continue to do business.
If it becomes clear, without a scintilla of doubt, that either King Salman or MBS ordered this, you going to cut off all business ties with Saudi Arabia?
No.
And the United States is in a similar position, $200 billion in arms sales, and a, you know, to thwart Iran hegemony in the Middle East.
There are many businesses that do business worldwide, American, non-American. Look, our job is to build bridges. Our job is to try to find commonality. There are many things I disagree in my own country, and there are many things I disagree in every other country.
It's going to be a tough, you know, if the people that see things in black and white, Marco Rubio, whomever, that look at something like this should be disqualifying for any relationship whatsoever. And that's just not the real world, I don't think.
It is, you know, no one likes to make black or white decisions. Sometimes you need to. I don't know if at this time I need to make a black or white.
So what was the Saudi reaction to just you pulling out of the conference?
I mean, look, keep in mind, Saudi has some very, you know, the oil minister is very commercially minded. He ran, you know, the oil minister ran Saudi Aramco. We're talking about, you know, the economy minister was chairman of one of the big banks in Saudi Arabia. We're talking very commercially minded leaders, and I had conversations with many of the different leaders, and they understood. They understood that they preferred we were not withdrawing. They would have preferred we stayed, which I understand, but they understand that we have many different constituents that we have to balance out at this time. It does not mean we are withdrawing from the kingdom.
We've talked about what this could do to the price of oil, not necessarily your decision, but the relationship between the U.S. and Saudi, and frankly, Pompeo is over there. Secretary of State Pompeo is over there right now. What do you think the right role of government is? Because I do know also in the conversations you and Steve Schwartzman and Jamie were having was really the hope that Washington could take the lead on this in a way so that you wouldn't have to. And the question though is, what if they are to take the lead? What does that lead look like?
It's always convenient to have a government to stand up first. You know, I don't know the relationships that the governments are having with Saudi. I assume they're very strong and consistent. So,
but I don't think you would want that for the U.S. to take it. I mean, do we think that Putin has never pushed a button on someone? Is that possible?
I'm not going to talk about.
I know. Okay. How about in China? How about we know Kim Jong-un has pushed button, and these things, you know, in the real world,
these are very delicate issues.
Right, but you have to deal with what you're the hand that you're given. You can't change. So I don't think you'd want the United States government just to.
I don't want a black and white decision. You're right. Because we have been really strong allies, the United States and Saudi. Let's be clear. To execute the sanctions against Iran, we need Saudi to ramp up oil production. They have done that. They're almost at peak capacity right now, and they're trying to, I don't know to the ultimate degree can they ramp it up more. But, you know, we are now witnessing worldwide at a time where the American dollar is very strong, and we're witnessing very strong energy prices. This is one of the reasons why we're having market volatility, why the emerging market's doing really poorly. This is one of the reasons why, getting back to BlackRock's earnings, we had such large divergent beta, you know, outflows in emerging markets, downdraft in emerging markets. I mean, one of the great statistics that stunned me, and we haven't talked about it enough, since the beginning of the second quarter, emerging market equities are down 10%, and yet the S&P is up 10, a 20% divergence.
Yeah.
And so having a strong dollar in front of having rising energy prices is really destabilizing for the world. And so we need to have proper diplomacy with Saudi. Our hope is that energy prices drift back lower, especially if the dollar continues to be a strong currency.